It just is not. Ah! Me and this microphone don't get along.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Playbook of the Wealthy. My name is Dave Grant. My co-host is Heather Townsend, and today we are talking about what and how to fire. Yeah, you'll figure out what that means when we get into it. So before we get into everything, let's go through some disclaimers. All opinions expressed... Shut up. All opinions expressed by Dave Grant and Heather Townsend are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the views of their respective wealth management firms. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Nothing in this material constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Clients of Retirement Matters and Townsend Financial may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast. If you've never been here before, this is your first time, we split our podcast into 4 segments. One, when we find out how each other are doing professionally and personally, we dive into content, and then we answer questions as well. So the first segment is called, How You Doing? Heather.
How am I doing?
How you doing?
Doing good today. I'm going to have some big decisions coming up in my practice. I think we've been talking about how I'm going to hire the full-time admin. What did you do? Just drop something there?
Yeah, I did. It was my fidget.
Oh, you're fidgeting. Can we show? What are we fidgeting with? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm hiring an admin. Came to the conclusion, have to hire a full-time admin. I'm in a little bit of a pickle. I have a wonderful full-time admin or part-time admin that works for me now on a contractor basis through one of those agencies where they work with multiple advisors, right? I have her for 20 hours. I'm consistently going over. She gets stuff done. We work well together. She loves working for me, and she's told me she wants to work with me for full-time. So I talked to the agency, did all what's right? I'm fully transparent, saying I want to buy her out. I might have to buy her out at 3 months of her full billing. I think that's going to be like 30, 40 grand. And now I'm going to probably negotiate with her. But my gut's like kind of saying no, like don't do this. And I also have the option, what I love, because it's kind of funny. You get a way higher number and then you go and you get a lower number that probably would have seemed really high in the beginning. But when you get some astronomical number at first, then the next number doesn't seem so high. So I went to a recruiting firm that specializes in hiring like back office support for financial advisors. And I'm going to do the like premium package where they're going to write the job description, post it for me, go through all the candidates, give me the top 3 to 4, even do a personality assessment. It's only like $8 grand. I was like, I know. So, and a 3-month guarantee. So if it doesn't work out, they will re-find someone else for me.
Yeah. I would renegotiate with the company that has your current virtual assistant. That seems high. Like a 3-month buyout of what their billing is in order to buy them out of their... when they don't have an employment contract. Like that doesn't exist. Like they're employed at will. So
no,
it's just an arbitrary
but I got
thing,
her
right?
point. I actually got her point because I asked the same thing. I was like, that seems high, but she's like, but I'm going to have to hire someone new, train them, and get them up. So I thought of it from her business owner standpoint, right?
Sure.
And so I was like, okay, that's valid. But if my admin doesn't go with me, she's going to leave and go somewhere else. I can't take her for 2 years for a non-compete, but she wants 2 years. I know. But she wants to go work for someone else. But I'm a little conflicted because she's wonderful. I already know it works. But I wouldn't say it's amazing. And I don't know if it's because she's split between so many advisors or if it's just her inherently. She says it's because she's split between so many advisors. So she has to keep all these different firms in her head, which I get. I think she works with like 4 or 5 advisors. But like, I need this person to be on where I am. Like, I need someone to watch out for me, take care of me, all of those things, and manage me. So I'm conflicted. I don't know what I'm going to decide. We're having a conversation this week where I'm going to literally lay out the job description with her, talk through comp, everything, and like just lay it out on the table. Like, these are my concerns. This is what you're great at. This is what I've noticed you're not great at that I would need to be improved. and see where we're at, because I want us both to succeed. But yeah, 30 grand, I don't think I can do that. Not now that I know I could get it at 8 with a 3-month guarantee of someone else for, yeah, I don't know.
Professionally, for me, I'm in content generating mode right now in terms of we have this podcast. I have a podcast I do on my own called the 5-Minute Financial Plan Podcast. And then I do 4 written pieces, 2 for my own website and 2 for 2 other websites that I run, which are linked to all of this in together. So I decided, okay, what can ChatGPT do for me this week? So I'm like, all right, I need you to write 4 articles based on this. Either I'm not good at ChatGPT or ChatGPT is just not good. Because when you then read these pieces back, I'm like, okay, that sounds like a textbook. I can't send that out. Like, make it more friendly. And then it really sounds dumb. I'm like, okay, this sounds like a 15-year-old could have written this. And all the while, I'm in the back of my mind thinking, okay, how long is this taking versus how long would it have taken me to actually write the article by myself? So I'm going through these iterations, and then I get to the end of it, and I'm like, I can't use any of this. I don't know what to do with this. And so then I go back to square one, and I write the pieces myself. So I think it's a mixture of user error, and we're writing pieces that are so either technical or stuff that AI just can't write yet. All right. So that's enough about us. Let's dive in. We are talking about FIRE. So if you've not come across this topic before, FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. So this is where you don't need a job anymore, or you're choosing not to work. And you're getting your income from your assets or real estate or whatever else you've done investing wise, and you live the life you want to. So now we're talking about, well, okay, that is FIRE, but who does it? I've seen, and I will own up, I'm in a lot of FIRE Reddit groups. There's a lot of people there. The stories are fascinating. A lot of them are coming from high income, either tech jobs or people who've got equity and sold. And it's a huge financial influx of money, either from RSUs, options, or a business sale. And now they are midlife and they're like, I don't need to work. What do I do? And so that's typically who's coming there. It's not people who are, oh, I'm 57, 58, and I've saved throughout my whole career and I can retire a little bit earlier than I thought. It's not quite those people, although it can be if they're planning to work till 70, because that's a big gap in age. But it's typically people who have sudden influx of money, and now what do we do?
Or they're in a movement. Like the FIRE movement is a movement it's in like the 20s and 30s, maybe young 40s age group, where they are trying to live very minimally. And I mean, like, eat ramen and not nourish their bodies to save absolutely as much as they possibly can so they can retire early. That's what FIRE comes to me. I mean, I don't use with my clients that are in financial freedom, even if they're in their 50s, I'm like, oh, they're not in FIRE. I don't use that term. FIRE to me is like this movement where they're obsessed with saving as much money as they possibly can to retire early at a very young age. And they are sacrificing a lot of living today to do that.
So that's interesting because there's different versions of FIRE.
There are.
So these are the main 4, and they have bizarre names. So you've got Chubby FIRE, which
I just can't.
I don't know why they named it that. Well, they named it that because it comes from Fat FIRE. So Fat FIRE is where you retire the earliest you can with the most money possible. And that's typically people who live frugally.
Yep.
And they're saving and saving and saving, and then they retire, they cut the cord, they're gone, they're done.
Those are my ramen people.
Well, typically with Fat FIRE, you're actually living a good lifestyle.
Oh.
So let me kind of backtrack. Lean FIRE is where you're living that very much a minimal lifestyle now and when you retire. And you're figuring out what's the smallest number I can get to that equals financial freedom. And I'm going to live a minimal lifestyle afterwards to sustain that.
Woof. That would not be a client for me.
Doesn't sound fun, does it?
No. Woof.
So, yeah. Fat FIRE is let's live a great life, save a lot of money aggressively, and then let's retire and still live that lifestyle. Chubby fire is essentially not getting the most money that you can get, but you're living what's called, like an upper class lifestyle pre and post retirement. So it doesn't necessarily mean we need the most amount of money we can get. It's we want to live life well. And then the last one you got is coast fire, which means you can retire now and you would not need to save anything for the rest of your career. So essentially that means I can still work, but I don't need to save anything. So essentially I've got all the assets I need, but I'm choosing to work, but I can just choose whichever job I want because it doesn't matter what I earn because I don't need to save anything. I don't need to add to my investments.
You know what's funny on Coast? A lot of my young clients, that's what they want to get to actually. Like they love their jobs, but that's what we're working towards right now is they want to get to, I didn't know the term was Coast. I call it financial freedom. Like they could walk away from their job at any time. That's fascinating.
It's called barista fire as well. In terms of like, you could go work at Starbucks. Doesn't matter. Yeah. You have enough money, but you still want to work.
Yeah.
So it's
Chubby, fat, lean, and Coast. I mean, these names are.
It's like, okay, how many variations of let's get as much money as we can as quickly as we can and then not work again?
But it's like defining the lifestyle is what it seems and like what you're doing. Okay. And then, but typically, how do we calculate fire?
Well, if you want to put calculation to it, it's going to be 25% your annual income. Sorry, 25 times your annual income.
So if you're making $100,000, you have 2.5 million in assets.
Yeah. And that obviously depends on your lifestyle. Like that is going to be good for one type of fire. But if you want chubby or fat fire, typically you're going to need more than that.
And for the record, that's not home equity, right? It's not house equity. It's liquid assets.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of discussion in the fire groups of when people are describing their situation and like, oh, we have $1 million in home equity and we've got $1.5 million in our brokerage. So we have $2.5 million. No. They get roasted in the comments because they're like, no, you don't. You discard that equity. You don't. Yeah. You have a house to live in is what you have.
Okay. How do you fire? How do you fire?
Come on, say it like you mean it.
How do you fire? It's not my thing though. For the record, for anyone listening, if you can tell, like I like financial freedom. Fire, this whole movement. Okay, but all right. I do want as many people to get to financial freedom though, because it definitely changes your mindset in a wonderful way. So I've watched that with my husband, and it's like the most beautiful thing to see and watch clients go through it. All right, so you got to understand your number. They say 25 times your annual income, but what's fascinating to me is I find that when people stop working, they spend a lot more money because they need to fill that time. They're not working anymore. So they're going to go do things. And so I would really map out what your day, week, month looks like, even year in financial freedom. And what's that number that you need to live that way? What's it going to take? And then to get there, so you do whatever that number is, let's say it's 150 now, you need 25x of that. What number is that? So, okay, 3.75 million. It's not a round number, 3.75 million. So now they need a lot more than that 2.5. All right. How are you going to get to that 3.75? When do you want to get to it by? And how much do you need to save of your income to get to 3.75 in liquid assets? And do you have like a lower cost of living? Do you have a higher cost of living? Like, what are you going to do to be able to save more? Or what are you willing to do to save more to get there faster? And how aggressive are your investments going to be to get you there? And then using that, assume growth, which I do for my clients. Like I have a spreadsheet and assume compounding at a certain percent based on what they're invested in. What am I missing, Dave?
Well, you started off saying, what's your lifestyle going to be? And I think that's probably the most important part. And so it's It's interesting when I hear the stories in those fire groups of someone saying, "Oh, I just exited the company. It's 20 million and all I want to do is woodwork and hike." I'm like, "All right, that's cool. I'm not knocking you, but did you really need to wait for that exit? Could you have done this 5 years earlier because your lifestyle is going to be nothing?"
Yeah.
And then it's the reverse of, "Oh, I just got, $1 million in RSUs. I quit my job yesterday and now I'm going on a worldwide tour." I'm like, "Great. Say goodbye to that million and now you're back to where you started."
Mm-hmm.
So it all ties down to, okay, well, what is life going to be after you fire?
And then what do you give up by firing? I think for me, what I see that makes me so sad is people get so obsessed with getting to financial freedom. And I will always remember Alex and I met this couple in Thailand, and they had been in financial freedom for now 2 or 3 years. And I love when people are honest, honestly. And it helps so much. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, how is it? Aren't you so happy you're retired? How has it been?" And they said, "Actually, it was the hardest thing our marriage ever went through.
Mm.
A lot of our friends are getting divorced. A lot of our friends are depressed. It was hard for us, but we're on the other side now." And I think there's
Wow.
so many people that obsess about financial freedom and retirement and not having to work and all of this. But those are some of our best years. Like right now, you and me, Dave, right now, we're in our prime, right? Like health-wise, life-wise, like this is when we should be traveling. This is when we should be doing the things and I'm very lucky. I think you are too. Like I love what I do. So I don't, do I maybe work more hours than I want to sometimes? Absolutely. I'm not going to hide behind that. That's probably my current problem right now. But I genuinely enjoy my job. I genuinely enjoy my clients. These people go through 10 or 20 years of being miserable, maybe 5. What if you get sick? How many stories do you have of that? I have had a few clients that come to me and they're like, "Yeah, I love my retirement plan, but also I need to live today because my dad retired and got cancer right when he was going to go travel the world and didn't get to spend any of it." That happened to one of my clients' parents. So, do I love financial freedom? Absolutely. But anything that comes with finances, it's personal, balance. Balance, balance, balance. Still live today. We don't know that we have tomorrow. And I think it's an amazing thing and it's absolutely possible, but do both. Live today and get to financial freedom. And if you don't like your job, go get a better job and enjoy it. If you don't want to work that many hours, put some boundaries in place. Like, that's my advice.
Yeah. I think a lot of that does come down to purpose. Like you can have a job and have zero purpose because you hate your job. And you can have all the money in the world and you're miserable. Or it can be the complete opposite. You can not make much money, but feel on top of the world because your job is amazing. Your goal is not fire, but you don't want it to be fire because, like you said, you're living your prime now. So I think when people are looking at fire and, okay, if this is something you're going to pursue, what do you need to consider outside of, okay, here's my magic number? So for one, there's health insurance. We live in a country where you need it. Are you moving outside the country? If so, where are you moving? What's the health insurance situation there? Do you need to be carrying health insurance from the US over there because you're not eligible? If those are the types of things that people don't think about and can actually add up to a lot of dollars because they're just not aware of it yet. So a lot of research you got to do before you actually pull that trigger.
And for anyone listening, for the love of fluff, here I'm going to get a little very opinionated on something. Spicy is the word we're going to use. Do not go without health insurance. That is like Russian roulette. I can't tell you how many stories I have of people that have gone bankrupt because they didn't want to pay a $500 monthly bill. That is stupid. Pay the $500. You can afford that. You cannot afford, or it will hit you very hard in your financial plans if you have $100,000 or $200,000 medical bill. Pay the medical insurance. Okay.
For sure. That ends your fire journey real quick.
Yeah, that will get off my soapbox.
So I think the two things that I've got in mind of where this comes off the rails is you actually mentioned social circles and your story of people you met in Thailand. But I think you got to realize, okay, you might have two very different social circles. So you're going to have the people that are your age, you grew up with, you hang out with, your kids play sports with their kids. They are not living the life that you live. They have to go to work. They have to pay the mortgage. They have to do XYZ because they are not on the fire lifestyle. And then you've got your fire friends. Or it might be people 20 years older than you who are actually retired and they're living a retired lifestyle like you. They're just a little older. And you meet them at whatever time during the day, you travel with them, when other people are working. And you've got two very different lifestyles going on. But you need to be aware of, you can't just have the friendship circle that you've had for the last 10 years once you pull that trigger. You're going to have no friends. All the work.
You know what? One of my clients is actually going through a really hard time with this that we're talking about. They're in a completely different financial situation than most of their friends. Most of their friends have to work 9 to 5. They're a business owner, been very successful, and all the things that they want to do, like their friends can't afford. And we're talking even sometimes like a $50 concert ticket, because it's not just a $50 concert ticket. It's you got to get the babysitter. You then are paying for the food and that's hard on their friends. But for my client, like that's a drop in the bucket. And not in a way that they're bragging. It's just the reality of their financial situation. And so they're kind of going through this really early midlife crisis because they're like, wait, I'm way far advanced financially than my friends, but now I have no one to go do all the things that I can do and afford to do. And it sucks. And it's like they have to get new friends or they have to find other, like it's I don't have advice for this one except that just be aware, and we're working through it right now. I redid their life plan. I mean, there were tears. It was amazing. We're going to come in the next 5 years. I'm so excited for them.
Yeah.
But it took a lot of deep work to get through this. And it's hard to watch them go through this.
Sure. All right. The last thing I think about, and this is for people who fire early. So if they're 30, before mid 40s, or say before 50, you have to think about how you're designing your portfolio. We talked about in a recent episode about designing retirement income and how it's all buckets. Cash bucket, you got fixed income bucket, you got equity bucket. That's okay if you're talking about 30 years. What if we're talking about 50? What if we're talking about 60 years? Is it the same? It might be, but it also might look different. Because if you're a net worth of, say, 30 million, you might have other investment opportunities open to you. Are you investing in complex real estate? Are you doing things that are, master limited partnerships? Are you investing in oil? Are you investing in all these different things that are open to you? Now you're accredited and now you're, wealthy, and your investment portfolio looks different. I had one client I worked with a while ago hit that level, and now he started investing in small companies as a preferred investor. He was a debt investor to them. And so he was just loaning these companies money, so similar to an angel investor. But his portfolio looked way different than anyone else's.
Wait. What interest rate is he getting?
Oh, this was a long time ago. I have no idea. Okay. I don't remember.
Okay.
And so he had income from all these different payments coming in. I'm like, okay, are you living off that? Are you living off your portfolio? Do you have cash? Portfolios look different when you're at a different wealth level. Oh. So you have to just make sure, okay, how are we designed just to maintain our lifestyle for the next 30 to 50, 60 years?
I still think I'd do the bucket approach, though. I think about it in the sense of what their liquidity is, though. You'd have to then determine, here's the net worth, but what is the liquidity? What income are we getting off these other investments that we can count on, right? Like I know, so for some of my clients' DSTs, they stopped paying. They stopped paying the rental income after a while because I think the interest rates went up on the investments. So point being is, I mean, it's fun. I mean, I love that. I mean, you and I would nerd out about it all day, but I still think buckets apply in that. But it's more the liquidity and income you can count on other sources to determine the bucket approach. The calculation is more complicated for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go into what would you do? This is our question segment. And Heather, I'm going to have you start with the first one.
Okay. This person, they're in their mid 40s. My wife and I can fire at the end of the year. Fire. The only debt we have is our mortgage on a 30-year at 3.25%. Amazing interest rate. We can pay the mortgage payment along with our other expenses using a 4% withdrawal rate. Should we just do this or withdraw from our portfolio to pay the mortgage off and have a lower withdrawal rate? I mean, we all know what my opinion is on this. We're going to have differences of opinion, but okay, I have to answer this right away. 3.25%. It's like free money. I mean, it's not free money, but it is like that is an amazing interest rate. If I was to run this through probability of success, I would imagine, because when I do this and I have clients pay off their mortgage, it greatly drops their retirement probability of success because you're taking liquid assets and putting it now in an illiquid asset. And you're putting something to save 3.25%, which when probably conservatively, your investment portfolio could probably make you somewhere between 6 and 7%. So, but to be fair, because this is personal financial planning, what if the mortgage keeps him up at night? If Dave was my client, that mortgage would be keeping him up at night. If Heather was the client, the mortgage would not be keeping Heather up at night, and she's going to ride that mortgage into the sunset. So, it's personal, but if it were me and my client, I would encourage them to not pay off the mortgage but maybe have more towards that 7-year, right? Cash and fixed income, because they are so young. We probably wouldn't do 3 or 4 or 5 years, right? We'd probably do more at the 7 total year of bucket approach. Oh, yes. You're going to disagree with me. Go. Let's fight. Let's go.
I'm actually going to agree with you. And the main reason, we'll wait for Heather to faint and pick herself up off the floor. Typically, I agree that people pay off their mortgages. Typically. But the big caveat on here is we're in our mid-40s. How many times are you going to move in your mid-40s? Like, this is maybe your forever home. It might not be. You might want to move around to different parts of the country. So at that point, is it worth paying off the mortgage and then selling the house, potentially getting another mortgage if you're trading up in house? Because when you're firing, who knows if you're fat firing? But I'm going to keep things liquid and keep the mortgage.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Smack your microphone and shock.
Yeah,
I love it.
I just can't. All right. We agree on the mortgage discussion. All right. Question two. Take it away.
All right. This is a short one. So I'm aware of the concept of fire, but I'm only 27. How do I set myself up to do this? Wow. 27. Okay. And you want to fire. Have a long, hard think about if you actually want to fire, because this is going to set you up on a trip that is going to be life-changing. I think the first thing you need to understand is, okay, you're going to need to save a lot of money if you want to fire as soon as you can. Let's say you're doing, Chubby fire. You want an upper-class lifestyle, retire as soon as we can, and continue that lifestyle.
You had to choose the Chubby. You had to.
I don't want to do lean. That's boring.
Yeah. Okay.
So you have to get a well-paying job and one that you can save a lot of money. So you're looking at something that's highly skilled. So upper management, scientist, tech job, software engineering, somewhere that you have to learn the skills first before you get that job. At 27, I'm imagining you've gone through college. Think about if you've got that degree already. If not, probably just work for a little bit longer and go back to school and get that highly skilled degree and career transition.
Or start a company that you can exit. That's harder, more risky, but
get in there. Come on.
Okay.
I didn't interrupt yours.
Oh, hot dang.
What I would also say, start a company and then you can exit that. So that's one track, is getting that highly skilled job. Like Heather said, or start a company. Go ahead and do that. but you're going to be aggressively saving regardless of what you do. The benefit of having that company is there's an exit there too. So if you build up that company and decide you want to sell it, that could get you to fire way quicker than you could if you were working in that highly skilled job, working your way up the corporate ladder. Then, if you are not going to do this single and you're going to get married, regardless of who you're going to marry and their age, you have to choose a partner who is on board with this. There's nothing worse than someone who wants to fire and someone who doesn't. It will never work. So this has to be part of the discussion before you get married, or it has to be something that they are aware of and working towards, because if you don't, it's not going to work. And then this becomes your focus. Like, your job is to set a goal of when you're going to fire. What's the ideal goal? Let's say if you're 27, let's say it's 47. If you want to go really early and say, okay, I'm a little late to the game in terms of getting that highly skilled degree. I might have it at 31, 32. Now I've got 15 years. That's the goal. If you're starting a business, same thing. Start it now. It's going to be a little bit slower growth to start off with, like most businesses are. And then you accelerate it. 45, start to look to exit, get out 47, and you're there.
And it's going to depend how the stock market does too. That's the more interesting one. That, like, a lot of my clients were able to retire earlier because we're in the longest bull market, right? But if we have a 10-year flat period or downturn, might have to save a lot more. It's fascinating.
Yes.
27. You got some work ahead of you. It's true. All right. It's possible though. I always end on. Okay. Question 3. I'm 57, divorced, and fired in my early 50s. I've been having a good time doing things without a work schedule to hold me back. That's awesome. I would like to find a partner. How do I approach dating and sharing this information when I date people and they might be working? Oh, I love this. Radical transparency. You can weed them out fast. But you know what? I'd be careful of this person. We don't know if they're male or female, and it doesn't matter. I wouldn't want them taken advantage of. They're fired. They have assets. You got to be careful. And I also think, and I don't know how you can tell if someone's really after money or not, but how do they react? Are they the jealous type, or are they like the good for you? That's awesome. How did you get there? And be curious about it versus you definitely don't want to be with someone who's going to bring you down or expect you to then make them fired, right? That's an interesting one, but it will definitely probably help you weed out who you should date by how they react to that information. I'd pay really close attention to someone's body language and how they react when you tell them that. And I would be honest too, because if someone starts acting jealous or negative, that's probably not someone you want to continue dating.
When would you tell them in this relationship that you're financially independent?
I mean, that's a tough one, because if you think about it on the first date, that's going to come up. Like, I would ask, what do you do for a living? If you say, oh, hi, Bob, I'm in between jobs. That sounds a little sketchy, right? If you say, like, what do you say? Like, I'm not working. Okay. That also sounds sketchy. Like, I don't know if there's a way to not share, you don't say like, oh, I'm so rich, I don't have to work. You don't say that, but you just say, I did really well. I saved conservatively, and I'm able to retire at a young age, and I'm able to retire now, and leave it at that. And I think you have to be transparent about it, or you're going to sound a little weird. It's going to sound not great.
Do you know how I'd word this? I would say I'm a consultant in the financial services industry. A, it shuts down the conversation so fast about what you want to do as a job, because it sounds so boring. But B, you're consulting on your own finances. You're not lying. But you're also not giving all your cards away too soon.
That's a good one.
Showing your cards. That's the same.
That's a good one. I like that. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I defer to Dave. I like that. Or be radically transparent and just see if they're the one for you. Pick whatever. Good points, though. All right. Highlights?
Highlights. personal one of the week. This is when you get to know about us personally and nothing to do with work. I'm going to start. My highlight is Eddie Redmayne in his recent show, The Day of the Jackal. With my parents, we kind of go back and forth of searching for like the best like thriller shows on TV and streaming, and they're like, "Oh, just watch this. It's a good show." Now I'm binging it when my wife's asleep, and I'm trying to stay silent in bed as I'm watching TV and she's asleep. It's such a good show. So good. And then I'm like, I have to go to work now. Maybe I could. No, should I watch it? No, I shouldn't. I should go to work. Like, just the first 10 minutes. No, it's one of those.
I love when you have one of those shows that's a good feeling. Been there. So mine's a little funny. I have my first play date with a mom from school. So she asked me out. I feel like I'm going back to first dating.
Yeah.
But this is my first play date ever from someone from school because my kids are in preschool, right? So this is new. Mm-hmm. And I'm terrified. You can put me in a business room around a bunch of men and we're talking, and they might be even smarter than me or have bigger credentials or be more successful. And I will own that. I will show up. You put me with a woman, I'm terrified. I'm like nervous. I'm already thinking about it. It's on Sunday and today is Wednesday, and I am nervous right now. I want it to go well. And I'm terrified. So that's we're going to the movies. So that's the good news. It takes some stress off. The kids are going to watch a movie. So
yeah, you're not going to have to talk to this woman at all.
No, because then she said, let's go get a bite to eat afterwards.
This is like a real long first date.
It is. I know. And I'm nervous. All we've seen each other is passing by and to from school. Like dropping our kids off and picking them up.
Yeah, that's a long one for we're just passing in time. Would you like to go sit in the movies with me and then go and get food?
And I've never taken my kids to the movies yet. So it's the first time. And like sitting through dinner with, now it's going to be 3.5, 4-year-olds. Like this is going to be.
This could be interesting. I mean, your girls are how old? 3.5?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to watch maybe 20 minutes of that movie. And who knows how long their attention span will be. Where are you going for dinner?
We don't know. Food? I mean, it's kind of in this place where there's like a bunch of restaurants and it's on a Sunday, so it shouldn't be too packed, but yeah, just everyone wish me luck. I want a mom friend from school and I'm terrified. I'm going on a first date with a mom.
It's all right. Keep it base level conversation. You'll be fine.
Oh, because that's my personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thanks for advice. That's going to be really hard for me to keep. All right, everyone.
All right. So this is the end. So thank you for listening to this episode of Playbook of the Wealthy. You can find us on whichever platform you listen to podcasts on. And the video version of the show is on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. And if you want to send an email to the show, you can contact us at hello@playbookotw.com. And we'll see you next time.
Ciao.